So to make up the car is a relatively straightforward process, but there are one or two little bits here that we're going to have to stick on. You might call it slightly fiddly. But I'm going to make this up and show you in the more traditional way. And so the first thing to do is choose the colours that you want to work with. So this is for the colour, the body of the car. And if I just bring this in, you can see I've chosen now a purple and an off-white, Old English white there. And we're going to start off by making the body of the car. What you'll need to do is get your card, and I have found that, in all honesty, it's as easy just to cut the whole lot out rather than just trying to paper piece in the exact areas that you want, for the main part of the car at least. So what I'm going to do is pop the die onto my chosen card. 250 GSM upwards is absolutely fine. This is actually a 300 GSM, so it's a little bit thicker. I've held that in place with a little bit of tape, and now I'm just going to pop it onto my cutting plate and close to one of the outer edges, bring it in a little bit there, and shortest length running through the machine. Just makes it much easier to cut doing it that way. So plate's on, and all the bits are going to drop out. It might be as well to go this way up. So we cut it out. Now as I run it through the machine, I've done it this way, everything's just resting on the back there, and always check if one or two little bits have come out. It might still just be stuck to the board. There's one little tiny bit there. At this point it doesn't matter because we're really just looking to produce the body of the car. So now all I need to do is just remove this and get ready to actually cut with the parts. So I'm going to, if you tap it, everything's going to drop out, and it's probably one of those points where you don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to use my craft knife here and remove that part of the car, and I will need a part out of the windscreen as well. So I'm just going to remove those two and put everything else to one side. Now, although not absolutely necessary, and there are bits you can leave out if you don't want to, there's a tiny corner here that fits into the car, and that's something which I want to use and keep. So keep the windscreen, and then we're going to just cut that out and use a little bit of tape to hold it into position. So I'll pop that to one side because we'll look at the main part of the car here. So the next thing to do is match, or choose rather, our second colour and then match it to the bodywork here. And in this instance, I've gone for, I said, an off-white, an Old English white. So I'm going to repeat this same process and cut this out, and we'll come back and have a look at it. And again, just down onto my plate, close to the edge, and shortest edge running through. I'll pop that on there, and then I'll just flip the plates over as they go into the machine, and then carefully lift that off. Again, check for any missing bits that might be stuck on your board there, and there aren't, which is good. So what I need to do now is just carefully remove the parts that I want to keep. In this instance, we're going to obviously pull out the whole of the bodywork, but I do want the white part, the inner part of the wheels here. So I'm just going to use my craft knife and just carefully take those away there, like so. And now I can just remove this and use the white part here. Now I actually want a little bit off the windscreen as well. That's fortuitous, that's popped up. We're going to use a little bit of there. So again, I'll pop that to one side and then just pull this out. I've got my lovely body colour there. So everything else now goes to one side, and we'll come back and have a look how we can join these two together. Just before we go on, I'll just also say it might be at this stage, if you've cut the white, keeping the lights out, keeping those back, because we could cut those out and colour them in. I can show you later and match that over the metal one. And a couple of these little bits here that we could just pop onto the car and then hand colour, rather than getting an orange and other different colours. We could use this as well. So that might be a case in point if I just show you here, where I just put these to one side. I might need them, but I might not. But I recommend just keeping those, to one side as well. I should mention that. It depends really on the making process of the car. So we've got two methods of working with this, but the first thing we've got to do is actually just separate this part here. We can see the line running through. Now this is going to have a chrome trim running over it, so you don't have to be wildly accurate, but what I'm going to do is just follow that line with my craft knife here and just run along and then just come up to the radiator there and just snip the little points that just hold it in there. And there's one back here. So let's get my, oops, there we go. I think it's actually separated itself there. And pull that away. And that becomes the colour that now sits on the bodywork of the car here. So we've got two methods of working now. I'm going to just show you the quick one, which might appeal to you, is to simply just pop this on the top over there, like so. And that will just match in, and obviously we'd glue it into position, and that looks absolutely fine. The second method, if you want to totally paper piece, is to again just remove this. So I'm going to pop that into that line there and just cut along here. Let's use my scalpel blade. Careful I don't go into the radiator, although that's going to be covered anyway with a silver piece, but you just want to make sure you don't chop into there. So if I just show you, so we'll come back, it's probably a better practice. Let me just show you here. So I'm going to reverse engineer that for a second. So when it comes to cutting that one out, to come from here to make sure you don't just snag the front part of the car there. Okay, so that's another method. So what we're ready to do now is just sort of paper piece those ones back in. So I'm going to flip this over and take these here, and then that just slots back in there like so. Now I tape these together, and I'm going to use a little bit of green tape here so it shows up on the camera for you. The thing that I want to avoid is just anything coming over the edge. So I'm just going to snip that and just keep it nice and clean. So I'll go on now and we'll just, in fact I can use that piece there, just go on and use my tape to hold this into position. That will lock nicely there, and as I said, the other side is going to be held into position, it's going to be covered up with a strip of silver chrome. So the door again nicely goes in there, and a little bit of tape just to hold that in. Now why I like this method, whether you've stuck it on the top, that doesn't really matter, but this method of building up the car means that we can place it anywhere that we want on the work. We don't have to sort of guess where it's going to go, glue it all in position and find it's in the wrong place of the card. But if you know exactly where you want to do it, you could glue this all into position. So I'll just flip that over, a little bit more decorative. That would hopefully make more sense. We could just pop it on there and glue it exactly where it needs to go. Now there's another little element we can add here. You don't have to, again, make this as fiddly or as simple as you want, but there's a little bit that slots in there. If I just bring it into shot, it's this one here. So that comes out of the windscreen and it just sits into the corner there. So I'm going to pop this over, and again, now I'm using my craft knife a lot just to pick up on these pieces, and that will just slot into that corner there. I'll take a piece of tape. This time I'm going to cut it a little bit more accurately and just slide that into position there, pop a bit of tape just to hold it in. Again, you could do this afterwards where you know exactly where your card's going to be, and then pop it into position then if you wanted. Last but not least, there's a little bit of the white chair. Now we've kept the other piece of white to create the two seats in the car as well. I've got this one here, so let me just show you that. Again, I'm just going to pop that off there, just separate it and put a little bit of glue just to hold it into position there. Oops, little spot of glue. And just glue that on there. and that just finishes off. So now with the chair here, again I can paper piece, got them chairs, the seats. I'm just going to separate that bit out there, or we could stick it on top if you wanted to. Again, if you want to, that's fine. And then come back to my original one here. Let's just clear the decks a little bit. And again, that's all just being held in position there, like so. And that's just one cut, and that can just pop back in to position there. And again, what I'm going to do is just flip that over and pop a little bit of tape on. But you can see the whole thing comes together now really, really nicely. So that's our car sort of comes to life at this stage. So the bigger bit goes just into there, like so. And a piece of tape. You can cut these if you want to make it neater as well. Just have some little strips ready and just pop that in there. Again, if you wanted to and you knew exactly where the car was going to be, you could probably come back and drop these elements back in if you wanted to. Because I kind of like, so there's a little bit there, it's annoying me, there's a little, there, we got rid of it. It's popping it all together to enable me to place it wherever I want to go. I want it to go on the card. So keep the other bits because I might switch the car one day and have two different colours, switch the colour away. Now the next thing to do, I think, are the wheels. That starts to bring the whole thing together, and then we're just going to look to put our chrome all along here, our chrome strips, and for the grille, etc., and for the lights. So for the wheels, let's just bring our die back in here. We've got our tyres, and we've kept the white parts here. The silver bits are going to go in there. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. The fourth one there just slots in under the corner there. So we've got 4 areas where we need some black card. And you could, again, if you want to, just pop the whole lot in, or you can paper piece it and just put some, let's just show you. Let's just, now the card I've got here, this is about 350 GSM. It's quite a heavyweight, but I had it kicking around, so I thought I'll use that. So if I just show you another method that we can use, gives you an idea of how you can just organise where you want your elements to go. If you want to do, rather than using a whole sheet of card, you can do this. And we just need to then stick them down, keep them into position. So 1, 2, 3, and the third one will just pop along up there. So just a piece of card. I'm just cutting this. I don't want the card to sit on top of each other because that will just artificially raise the height of everything. In truth, if it's me, and I know I've got an unlimited supply of card, I would have just put one piece over the whole lot and be done with it. But I'll just show you this method if you want to, if you've got little bits left over and you want to do it that way. The other thing is just to make sure you can kind of lift this off the die afterwards as well. Okay, so again, that will just go back onto our plates and cut. So let's just rest that. Because we want to keep all the parts, I'm going to just pop that one on there and then pop that on and just run it through the machine. And now carefully remove that, and we've got all our elements in place here. So the tyres are going to be here, and those are the bits that we're after. The tape there is conveniently going to hold those into position for me. So we've got a couple of methods. We can kind of just pull this all off, and while I've got it with the tape on it, I can just pull that away off the die. And now I've got my tyre and wheels sitting here. Now we can build this up and drop the elements back in. So at this stage I'm just going to remove the wheels. So that's one there, whoops, that one there, and I'll just take out the centre parts because we don't need those. 2, and number 3 here, just remove that. And then this one here, which I've actually got caught with a little bit of tape on it. But again, I can just pop the elements out that I don't need. And in truth, I won't worry about that tape. because that's just in position there. So those are my 4 tyres ready to now be turned into wheels and popped onto the car. So the next thing to do, just to give a tap, remove any bits of tape, like so, clean out our die, and we're ready we might as well cut the silver now, because then we can pop the hubcaps in, make the wheel, and put all of that to one side and get ready to put that down as the trim on our card. So quick tidy up now. I'll put these carefully to one side with the white parts of the inner part of the wheels there, and we'll come back and just cut our silver. And in truth, I'm just going to pop one piece and do the whole thing with it, because I'll get the bumper, the screen, it's all scattered around a little bit here. Die goes on there, and a little bit of tape just to hold it into position, like so. Pop my plates on there, and again just turn it over so all the bits remain within the die, or hopefully most of it remains within the die, and then just run that through my cutting machine. Again, carefully remove that, check for any bits that might be stuck on the board. In this instance it's the silver hubcap, which I definitely need. Now I'm building up the wheels, so at this stage I've cut everything that I need colour-wise for the moment. So I'm just going to remove the centre parts here, which are for those 3 there. So I can build up my wheels now and then stick those onto the card. So, tell you what I've just noticed there as well. That part, which was the bumper, guess where it is? Share that with you. It's still stuck on the plate there. I'll definitely need that a little bit later. So again, just double check. I don't know how I missed that, but I did. So there we go. Again, I'll keep that safely to one side. So all of this can now be carefully popped again to one side, and I'll leave everything just sitting in there. It's convenient. The slightest bash and it all just drops out. It cuts it cuts beautifully, but this is one of the times when I think, oh, just please stay in the die. Okay, so that goes to one side. Let's come back and have a look. We've got our car there. We're ready for the wheels and the tyres, and I'll just start on this one here. Now this is in reverse, and I'll show you that. So you can see on this card, which is quite thick, you get all the lovely embossed lines in it. And if I turn that over, that's obviously the side which has been cut and embossed, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to drop the other elements in there, but we're going to do that in reverse. So I'll flip that over there like so. I'm going to use the same method for all of them. Now I'm going to come back and use this part, which was the white part of the die, and then my centre hubcap, which is this one, and you can see the silver on there. And we have the largest part, which is that bit, facing over to there. So I'm going to just now reverse this over like so. Doesn't matter, I'm just trying to keep it as accurate as possible. And that will then just drop in to the middle like so. And a little bit of tape just to hold the whole thing together. And that's the same method I'm going to use for this tyre and for the other one. And if I just bring this one back in, just show you. Not necessary for that one. That's just going to fit. Whoops, that's just bounced right out of shot. That's going to fit over there. I'll go and retrieve that in a second. Could only happen on the screen, couldn't it? Okay, now you may want to do this in different sections. I put the white bit in first, then turn it over and just drop the silver one on top. I don't know if I've stuck that too tightly, but I'll just show you. We could have turned that over and then just drop this back in there if you wanted to make sure everything lined up. Now that ultimately is going to just slot into there like so. We can see the car really coming together now. It looks lovely. So again, the same method for this one here. Just flip it over and I'll drop the white inner part in there and the larger part is just going to the bottom there. If you can see, that will just slot into there. And again, I've got a little silver hubcap which will go into the middle. And I think on this one, if I just show you, I will I'll do that one afterwards. So a bit of tape across there to hold it into position, like so. And I'll flip that over, like so. Oops, just drop that one in there. That's the for the spare wheel. That's going to go up on there. Okay, so all our parts are retrieved and made. And what we're going to do is just slot in the wheels like so. But of course we're going to do this from the other side, but just to show you there. And last but not least, this one's going to fit actually on the car and be glued. We'll just pop that on there. But before we do that, I'll just show you this method. Again, we're going to just simply go ahead and make it up with the tape. Now there's an obvious way which this fits in. You can see that there. That's just going to nestle nicely in to that part of our car there. So I've pre-prepared some tape, ready to stick it down. Just hold that into position, and that's there. And the same for the back one here. It'll only go one way, so you obviously make sure that you've got the tape side up. Push it in, you'll feel it lock in, a little bit of tape, and then just lock that into position. And that pulls it in nicely. And again, I'll put a little bit more there. If we come back to the front one here, that's just going to rest in there like so. So again, that just fits in perfectly there. A little bit of tape again. Now this does require, as I said, a little bit of making up. You can see I enjoy this part. It's like a crafting puzzle, and the car does come together relatively quickly. The first one, whoops, takes a little bit of time as you're finding your way as you're making it. Sorry, my fingers in the way. There we go, tape in there. But you'll see that it all comes together quite quickly. Now I said if we knew exactly where that was going on the card, we'd have this the other way up. And yeah, it's probably a little bit quicker, gluing it all into position. Let's have a look at this one now. But I said I like this method. We can still fine-tune it a little bit if we've missed it off there with our tape. I'm just going to pull that one into position there. And I can just see a little bit of green tape there. So again, I can just fine-tune any of the elements if I'm not happy with them there. I love this part because this is where it all comes together, and you can add as little or as much as you want to at this stage. You can either go fully fledged with all the lights or just pop two on there. It really is up to you. You're in control. You can make it as detailed as you want or as simple as that. I mean, in truth, we could almost get away with the car like this. It looks lovely, but there are a few obviously extra elements that we've got. And now I'm just going to pull this part out here, and that we can see now, if I just move that to one side, houses my lovely chrome radiator. So I'm going to pop that into there like so, and just liberate this one with a little cut there like that. That comes out from there, and again we're just going to slice that in so it's into the line there. Whoops, keep that all together. So the radiator cutting through the lines, and we'll just snip, and that will just come out down there like so. And then that's ready to now glue into position onto the car. And I'm going to go for my method, which is to glue the actual part here and then put that one on. I recommend a good wet glue. I'm using my Robert Adams super duper 5-star glue, and just a few little dots on there to hold it into position. You can use obviously whatever you want to stick this down with, but I do recommend a wet glue. See, I just got to put a few little bits on there, but there's nothing to stop you using your trusty tape pens if you want to as well. And that will now just sit into position there. You can see everything's already, existing lines are on there, so a little bit of pressure, and we just drop that onto there like so. So that's the radiator into position. Now you've got a choice with this. On some of these, the purple stayed as the colour, and then this part just sat on there. I quite like it being all in silver, but you do have a choice there. I've probably stuck that down now, so I can't show you. So yeah, no, it's all glued and into position. But if you want to, you can just have the grill and keep this as purple. I'm just a bit of a chrome fanatic, so I've stuck it all on there. And just while we've got it there, again, come back and put a little bit of tape on it just to hold it all into position there. You could see that was lifting slightly, so that just keeps the radiator nicely in position. There we go. So I think the next thing to do is to put the strips of chrome in along here, and then we can pop the other wheel, the spare wheel, up on there, and it at that point is pretty much looking like it's together, and we've just got the lights to stick on and then the bumper as well. So let me come back and show you here. You can see along here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. Now one of these, the one down here, if I just pop that out, is our silver line that runs along the bonnet there. And I'm just going to keep that on my craft knife and just run a little bit of glue. In fact, while I'm in gluing stage, I'll just run a few little dots of glue on there, so the precision tip helps. And again along here, remember this is our cut line, and so if you weren't so accurate at the start, as I said, we had to cut that one by hand, it doesn't matter because this will cover it all up. So capture that there and just rest that on here like so. Just hold it into position for a second. Try not to get too much glue. I should probably glue this. I would recommend you do each bit at a time. I'm sort of racing ahead here. I'm sticking my fingers in that part, but it doesn't matter. There we go, that goes on there. Remember, those are just optional extras on the top there if you find that it's too much for you. You don't want to go quite into so much detail, don't worry. But this I do think is quite important, this one here. Again, just hold that into position. This dries absolutely crystal clear, but I could rub a little bit off if I wanted to. To be honest, that's not too bad. Then I'm coming to the second one there, which you can see is a little bit shorter. Again, just drop that into position there. And last but not least is the little curve here. So let me just carefully get that up on my craft knife. Now you could, if you wanted to, just obviously separate all these bits out and have them ready to stick down. I'm just keeping it in the die just to show you. Oops, not too much pressure on there, and then just pop that along the back there. So that gives me a nice little bit of curve onto that one. Right, the bumper's jumping out at me, so I think that's sort of saying I want to be stuck down. That comes across here like so. So a little bit of wet glue, and just have it coming onto the tyre there and just running along the base edge there. So it's best then to just glue there, and I think it's roughly coming here, so about 1 centimetre down. If you're unsure, you could always glue that part there and then a little bit down here. So ready with the bumper next, and a little bit of glue along the base here and some on the tyre there. And so I'm roughly into position. If you're not sure where that's going to be, you could drop some on the actual bumper itself. And that just lines up here, and just, there's no right or wrong. That can come just over the wheel there and just sticking out slightly there. It's up to you. But just let that dry a few seconds. Again, a little bit of tissue to take up the excess. So this will dry crystal clear. There we go, that's in position there. And I think while we're ready to go, we've got 2 sets of lights here. If I can just bring those up. So the one with the smaller, let me just show you, I've got there the 2 lights, which we've got here, the chrome headlights. and the one with the smaller part comes to the front. It's actually the bigger light, and the bigger one here we can see more of where the part that actually holds it on goes, and that will just go there, and they just sit on the wings like so. That one there, and this one just sits up, covering the grille towards the top. Whoops. Like so. And again, what I'll do for this is just pop on the glue, I think, on the back. So a little bit of glue on there, a few dots just to hold it into position, and I use the applicator here just to swirl it around a bit. So the bigger lamp but with a smaller bracket just sits on here like so. I'll get my fingers out the way in a second and you'll be able to see. There we go. Let's just roughly put that into position. So I'm going to slide it along. I want it to come just shy of the grill there, sitting on there, and just those lines you can see for the light, just horizontal there, they're sticking up. There we go. And then the same again here. I'll just drop a few bits of glue on there. I would recommend that you do that somewhere separately just in case you get it on there. Again, I'll just roughly put it into position. It's going to line up there. And actually this one sticks up. I've put the glue above, but that doesn't matter. That just lines up with the wing there. Roughly into position. There we go. And there, that's on the car there. You could come a little bit lower if you want. I mean, we're going to be absolutely correct. That gives it a little bit more to stick on there. Okay. And that's really coming together quite nicely, I think. Let's just bring that back. It's driving away. So what we can do, if you want to, and this is what I would do later on, we could drop, do you remember I said, let's just come back a second here. Whoops. I said with the original headlights, we could cut these out, the white, and then stick them down, and then colour them in. I quite like just using, either keeping this just silver, or just coming over with a marker pen, a blue pen, felt tip pen, anything, just putting a little bit of blue in there, just to differentiate it slightly, so that looks rather nice. Now we've got our spare wheel that sits up on the car here, and that just goes roughly about there. So again, I'll pop a little bit of glue on the back now. This is where the masking tape's good, because the glue will absorb to that. You can see some of my original tape, which is plastic. It doesn't stick so well on there, which is why I quite like using the masking tape. And for positioning wise, just a little bit of gap between the door, that comes over there, and you'll see it just sit nicely on the line. So just there or thereabouts, that's the lovely thing. Wow, it's really coming together now, and I think it just looks absolutely stunning, doesn't it? Now I'm obviously talking to you and taking a little bit of time, but you can see now how all these elements come together. Last a couple of bits left over. Let's have a little look at what we've got in the way of chrome. Now, not everything has to go in. You don't have to put everything in if you don't want to, and I must stress that I'm just going to show you everything here, but you can see at this point it's looking lovely, and we could stop quite happily and I think have a lovely car there. So one of the other bits of trim, as I said, I'm a bit crazy about chrome, and this does actually match the original. So I'm taking from down here the windscreen, and that just sits there like so. And I'm just going to put a few dots of glue on there just to hold it into position, and that just sits around the edge up here in chrome. Again, this is an optional extra. It looks lovely in the purple, it's up to you. And that will just sit to the edge and along the top and come down there like so. Let's just get that into position like that. So there's a little bit of the purple pillar showing there, and it just adds to the grandiose of it all. But that, again, I must stress that it's really up to you how much. We're into the fiddly detail bits now, so it's you stop when you feel like that looks lovely and I'm done. So coming back here, we've got a number plate that we could pop in, and that would just go down. That's in perspective, so if I just twizzle that around, I could pop that on there, and we could just drop the elements on there. If you're working from the CD-ROM, you've got the other little bits that you can mix and match. And I'll talk about that later, because all of these vehicles now have a counterpart, and I'll just have a very brief chat of that at the end, because there is another tutorial which shows you how they all come together, but I'll explain that in a moment. So I'm going to pop that to one side. I have two additional little lights down here. So if I just pull those out, 1, 2, one is slightly bigger than the other. So in perspective wise, one will go there and the other one will just sit there like so. Now we can pop those on, and again I would recommend just a little bit of dab of glue on the base there. And I'm using my craft knife just to manipulate everything, because I find it a lot easier. Little dot of glue on there. It's just holding this into position, and that will, again with the wet glue, that will squelch away underneath, that's the technical term, and spread out. Now I'm sticking onto a metallic. It does prefer card, so I'm going to have to hold it for a second. You can see it bonds really quickly there, but this really is a metal surface. So actually I'll spread a little bit of glue on there. I'll rub that off when it's dry, but it comes clear anyway. There we go. Hoping my finger isn't stickier. So you may just have to place it, just give it a helping hand if you're sticking onto a metallic surface. Okay, and again I'll just come back and we'll just get a pen and just pop a little bit of blue on there to highlight that. The rest of the elements, we've got indicators that can go on here, and that's where I recommended if you want to pop them on, and you don't have to, but if you wanted to, they go onto the wing here, and I would use the white that we saved from the card, and I'll just put one there, and then there's another one on the other side, except I've lost that, I've got a bit of purple. So you could glue those on, and I would just use a little bit of pen on there. You could cut them out in orange, but it's running it through the machine again. I find it's much easier to work with a combination of cutting and with our pens there as well. In this instance, that was a modern invention that wasn't on the original car, so I'm going to leave that off, but show you where it would go if you wanted it. We've got other various little bits and pieces here. Those are actually the indicators and what we call the running lights of the day, but whether or not you want to use those, these are in silver, so probably not necessary. Coming along, this little bit here, this is for the radiator cap that sits on the top, and again I would be tempted just to put that in position afterwards, but I'll drop a bit of glue on there, and you don't have to put it on. This is, I am going to try and show you everything here, but also saying you don't have to put everything on. That will just sit on the top there. It's almost like a funny little T-shape. Again, I'm sticking onto metallic card, so it's going to take a little bit longer to dry. It will do it. This is good glue, and I know it'll work on there. So I'll just rest that on there. And the other little elements here, we've got a door handle, a little bit of silver there. The other two ones here are the windscreen wipers, which you can put in if you want to as well. So let's just come back, and you'll notice there's a slight, on the door here, we've got, I'll just put again a little splodge of glue there, perhaps a wee bit too much. I'll just get this one out the base here, flip that over, catch it with my knife, and just pop that on there, a little bit of silver. That's the door handle. Okay, windscreen wipers are these little bits here, and they would just go up into position there. So one, and then one on the other side. So again, I'll just pop a little bit of glue, and that one would go, we're going to have those facing like this. So a little bit of glue on there. So that's the second windscreen wiper there. That's just going to sit here. I'm going to show you, look, you don't, the car itself doesn't need these on. I'm just showing you all the detail. We're really taking this to the nth degree. Feel free not to put this in. I can't stress that enough. You know, there's certain stages where this car just looks beautiful. Happy to stop there. Don't feel you've got to go on and use everything up. I'll just pop that out there. This really does remind me of one of those plastic construction kits as a kid. Actually, I suppose you could glue the back, but I'm just going to potluck put a little bit of glue on there because I know it'll hold it, because that's a, flip that over. You can see you get what I love about die cuts is you get this beautiful, beautiful beveled edge, and that's what makes them so special. Hold that into position, take away some of the excess glue. Again, with my glue, you can get that on the website. It dries crystal clear, so I'm not too worried if I spread a little bit beyond where it needs to go. So we've used up everything there. That's done. There's one last little bit here, which would be a mirror that we could use, and that can go on to the car there if you want it, just on that part. Not necessary. When this car came out originally, certain things would not have been on it. It's only in modern safety rules that things add on there, but that's the little side mirror. We can pop that in there as well. So the last finishing touches would be, if you wanted to get a blue pen, and I'm going to rush around and try and find mine. In fact, I have a bunch of felt tip pens behind me here, and they're really, I don't even know if they still work. I got them from a certain shop where everything's quite cheap. There we go. And I'm just going to drop in a little bit of blue there. I think a marker, an alcohol-based pen, might be better. These are very cheap water-based ones. They kind of work, don't they? They give you, I don't know if it's showing up on the camera. In real life here, I've got quite a nice sort of bluish tint showing up, actually. Maybe a little bit of work might help, but there we go. Now, we do a transport CD-ROM, and this has the car already cut out, all the colours, and you can see basically the two now lined up next to each other. This one is obviously a lot quicker to make. We would cut everything out and then just pop all the elements back in on the back like we have the other one, and then just glue them on to the top here. So if I just pop that over, you can see now this is kind of fairly rough and ready, but there's a lot less work involved. If I pop that over from there to there, we can see the difference in the cars. So that's the quick and fast method. That's on the transport CD-ROM, and that works with the die, and it just cuts, everything's in position, and it just cuts beautifully. I will have a separate tutorial video just very quickly talking about that and how to make them for all of them in a very general way. But you can see that's another method. Last but not least, on this one, I would use a photographic, a shiny paper. But let's come back to our car here, because we can see now we've produced, I think, a really beautiful, beautiful car. If you want it to be a wedding car, we could put a little bit of ribbon from there just down to there, and it would look absolutely fantastic. You can obviously use and work with any colours that you want as well. I've just chosen these because I really like the purple. This is a lovely sort of pearlised paper, and I think it looks really fantastic on that. You can see it shining there. And again, that was the tape method. If you knew exactly where it wanted to go, you could have done everything as we've done here, but just glued and stuck as you went along. So here's our finished car. This was originally designed, well, you can use it on anything that you want, but we had it used in our popping display box cards, which looks absolutely lovely. Again, that's part of the transport CD, and details of which you can find on our website, all the W's, papercrafts.co.uk, as well as information about the transport CD that we use to make the other style of car. Fairly straightforward. There's nothing particularly difficult about doing this. There's just sort of sticking the details on. It's if I hate to use the word fiddly, because I don't think it's fiddly. I just find it challenging slightly. My method is to use my craft knife and just pop the elements down. Tweezers work just as well, but they're not really teeny tiny little pieces. I mean, apart from perhaps the windscreen wipers, maybe the door handle, everything's relatively easy to work with, but the end results are truly stunning and amazing, and it's all this attention to detail that makes the card look so lovely. So as well as a regular card, as I said, we could use them on our popping display box card. And here I want to show you we've got a lovely wedding car. Again, you can see just changing the colour in white, a little bit of ribbon, and you can leave in as much or as little as you want. And again, just using this as a conventional card as well. So there's lots of different ways of working with it. Anyway, enjoy your crafting, have fun, and see you soon. Bye bye.